Alright guys, today's video starts from this amazing lake in Thailand. It's about 6 a.m. right now and I've just come out here for the morning walk. I'm going to discuss a topic that can potentially save you years, one in your trading journey and two in your journey as an entrepreneur. So this happened to me, it's a very personal story and it's something that I just wish I heard beforehand because it would have saved many struggles. And also, if you take the mindset that I used to become profitable, you'll potentially be able to speed up your own journey by many years too. So this is where I'm walking, mountains in the background, huge lake right here. And what an incredible location to come in the mornings. And so, this is the story of how I essentially lost myself, how becoming profitable, making money, made me lose track of who I really am. Change things about the way I live that initially I wouldn't have wanted to do before making the money. I moved out of my parents' house and I essentially struggled for months with profitability. Even though the markets were providing good opportunities, I couldn't handle things that were going on at the time. And in order to fully understand this story, we first have to start from how I actually became profitable in the first place. The mindset I had, the way I used to think in order to become profitable in the first place. So if you don't know me, you haven't watched my channel, I'm 20 years old. I essentially became profitable by 19, as ridiculous as it sounds. I was not focusing on anything that they say to focus on. I was doing the opposite to the videos online, to all the things you see, and this allowed me to just become profitable way quicker. Whatever way it happened, it worked, and here's the way I thought. I didn't even focus on technicals whatsoever. Not one part. I had my own strategy, which was simple enough, and it was good to go. Now it's a lot better, but back then it was very, very simple. All I focused on was psychology, my own brain, learning the reasons human psychology is the way it is, the intricacies of the mind, focusing deeply on psychology. I had to have a very peaceful routine, nothing going on in terms of dopamine. I was consistent every single day, early wake-ups, 5 a.m, with the sunrise in England, at least in the summer, and I go straight out on a walk. No phone, no nothing, just pure silence, just me and my own mind. I did this for months straight, and the important thing about this is that I was extremely focused on my goals. Every morning I would go outside, I would think about my goals, understand what I have to do, and this essentially shifted my focus from how do I become profitable, what strategy do I need to do, what time frame, just a load of nonsense stuff, and it shifted it onto myself. And what I needed to do was simply stay disciplined, follow a strategy. Now the important thing that I did, that I believe this is why it takes people 3 to 4 years to become profitable, I purposely reframed how my mind works and how it thinks into that of a profitable trader through the practices I was doing. I purposely rewired the way it works. Everyone else who becomes profitable after 3-4 years, whatever the average says, all they're doing is accidentally rewiring their mind through trial and error over 3 to 4 years. Eventually, they've just rewired how their brain works into that of a trader. Now, it doesn't take someone 3 to 4 years to learn a strategy. Of course not. So what is actually happening to them in the 3 to 4 years? Well, they're rewiring their psychology. They no longer think the same in all aspects of life, not just trading. Their brain is not the same anymore. Their brain is now that of a trader's. And that must have been some type of lizard. So, essentially, I did practice to purposely rewire my brain to that of a trader. All I was focusing on was how should I think. And so I was coming to the markets every single day, thinking in the right way, understanding the right concepts. I was able to place trades properly, let trades run to TP, never overtrade, never over leverage. So these are all the issues I had to overcome, and I focused on psychology to do that. No one has to turn up every day at the markets and learn a strategy, because it's not that difficult. All you have to do is figure out how to learn yourself. Well, it's some classic Thailand. Here we are, mountains, amazing view. And we come over here and we used to have a buffalo just chilling. What says Thailand more than a random buffalo? That's all you need to see to know exactly where you are. So what specifically did I focus on? And the two most important words for my whole come up journey were frequency and dopamine. So frequency essentially means the frequency you're operating on, the way you feel 24/7. This is the biggest difference between successful entrepreneurs and unsuccessful entrepreneurs, is just how they feel and act 24/7 in the smallest things, the smallest details, because that is what will change you as a person. You're not the person outwardly who does these two massive things that's clear to everyone. You wake up at 5 a.m. and you go to the gym maybe. Cool, those are two big things, but all the small things, all the little things that no one sees, this is who you really are as a person. And to be able to do all those small things when no one's even looking, when no one knows you're doing them, that is, you have to be on a high frequency to do that. On top of that, being on a high frequency means every single situation that happens to you or that you see, you'll view it positively, through a positive lens, simply because you're operating on a high frequency. So listening to music such as 432 Hertz, that made the biggest difference. And maybe I'll have some of that playing on this video actually, because that'll be very fitting. So yeah, things like that made the biggest difference overall. And let me tell you guys the second part, why doing all the small things down to the smallest detail, doing 100% of what you say you're going to do is important in this journey. The most obvious part is self-confidence. It gives you the belief that what you're doing is actually important. Self-confidence that what you're doing is actually going to work and end up in results, because you're doing something so different to the average person. When you're doing 100% discipline, everything you say you're going to do, you will feel so different to the average person that you know this is going to achieve some type of results. A lot of people, and most people on the journey, are just kind of half doing things, half in, half out, feeling negative. How are you going to achieve success in that state? It's completely impossible. So for me, it's like I knew it was going to happen because I was doing things so differently. I was living in such a different state that not just the average person, the average entrepreneur trying to become successful can't even do. They're all half doing things. They're all feeling negative, fear, desperation. They want the results, but they don't want to do the things along the journey. So how are they ever going to get there? So that's an idea into everything I was doing. I didn't just want the results. I didn't just want the success. I wanted to do every small thing and every possible thing along the way to actually get there. So I was operating in this state. I would wake up 5 a.m. every day. I would do the same things every day. Every small habit you can think of, I used to do. And controlling my mind and dopamine system was the most important one for trading. Now, why is dopamine the most important thing to control and regulate as a trader? Well, if you think about it at the most basic level, when you don't have a dopamine addiction, let's say you're not addicted to any forms of dopamine, you can find it easy to do nothing. That's the whole point of it. You can find it easy to do nothing. You could sit there just in your room with nothing to do and you wouldn't feel bored because you don't have a dopamine addiction. So now, what's one of the most important things to do as a trader? Do nothing. When you're sitting in the charts, you don't need to feel anything. You don't need to feel some type of way from taking a trade. The rush of risk or adrenaline or fear of losing. Trading is heavy, heavy dopamine, right? It gives you strong effects. Whenever you take a trade, there's a big hit of dopamine. If you win that trade, if you lose that trade, there's a lot of emotions that can be going around, especially if you're just starting out or you're someone who isn't in complete control of their own psychology, which no one is, even I'm not to this day. So what's important is that you don't have any sort of messed up dopamine levels, because the goal of a trader is to do nothing. And if you can't sit there and do nothing, eventually you're going to overtrade, force a trade that shouldn't happen, just to feel some type of way. That's the real reason deep down that your brain is doing these things. So controlling the dopamine, doing every single small thing down to the smallest detail. That's how I lived. I almost lived like a monk during the come-up stage, only focusing on psychology, and that's essentially what allowed me to get to where I did, paired with the fact I had a normal strategy. So how did this all change? What happened to bring about the change in my trading, in the way I was? So I essentially started making money. And I eventually got changed by this in ways that I couldn't have foreseen happening. Now, I started essentially doing everything I was doing to make money. I thought the reason I was doing all these habits, the reason I was doing everything was to make money. And as soon as I started making money, after maybe 4 or 5 months, these small habits, they slowly started to drop off. They started to drop away. And I carried on making money throughout this time. So it was interesting to me because I started to feel a lot different. I felt a lot worse. I didn't have that same self-confidence. I didn't have that same ability, but I was still making money. So it was a strange trade-off where the effects weren't immediate. And I thought the reason I was doing these habits was to make money. And now that I got there, I could let a couple of them go. I didn't take them as seriously anymore. And overall, this just caused me to lose track of who I was. What I didn't know at the time was, it was not the results I'd achieved or the money I was making that made me who I was, but instead the things I do. And I only got those results because of who I was. And so as soon as I lost that, the results would start to unravel. Now, this took place when I essentially moved out of my parents' house and I moved to Bangkok. So what actually happened with this, moving out to Bangkok, I essentially finally had the shift and the change that exposed all the weaknesses that I developed in my routine compared to who I was to become successful in the first place, to who I'd become kind of maintaining a level of success that I was at. Now, moving out to Bangkok, of course, completely shook up my routine. I was on the other side of the planet and, everything was different. I was waking up at a different time. And the important lesson with that part is that I was changing who I was changing my life to fit around trading. I was going to sleep late just because the session hours would line up and I'd get more of a New York session potentially to trade. And I was waking up later. Doing this, you're not in that same type of spiritual state that you feel when you wake up early, coming out on walks in nature. You're nowhere near the same type of focus. And so I changed who I was. I changed my life to revolve around trading. Rather than just having trading fit in around my life and not focusing on it so much. The paradox with becoming successful in trading is that the more you care about it, the more you usually push it away. And with me doing this, obviously, I cared about trading a lot. I was changing my life. I was stopping that routine, the wake-up times, just to fit in trading at a certain time. Now, speaking on that inverse paradox, things I came to value versus things I didn't value in the first place, money had changed what I wanted. I start off as someone completely humble, no expectations in terms of materialistic things, what I'd have to buy. And for those who don't know, I moved out to a penthouse in central Bangkok. A huge apartment, top floor, centre of the city with a massive view overlooking a lake. And I don't know why I did this. In my mind, I had thought that this was almost the end goal. This was what I wanted. And as soon as I got out there, after the initial interest wore off, after the initial novelty wore off, it then became something that was completely unnecessary. I was spending all this money on something I didn't even need. And it went against all the principles I initially had to become profitable in the first place. Just being humble, controlling my dopamine, not needing a lot, not expecting ridiculous things. And here I go, spending a lot of money on something I didn't even need. And so eventually I started to feel that, and I was wondering what I was doing. And going to Bangkok had essentially just changed my whole reality, giving me loads of reality checks that I needed to see, because there were winning trades happening in the markets and I couldn't deal with everything going on in order to take them all. At the same time, you had the Trump situation shaping up the markets, and so it was a difficult time to trade. Now, the fact that it was a difficult time to trade, with me sort of unraveling in all these areas, was, of course, a recipe for disaster. So I essentially am in this stage and I start to realize, wow, I've stopped doing all these habits. I've stopped doing all the things that were important. And even though still in this state, I had a higher baseline than pretty much everyone else trying to become profitable, it still wasn't enough. And that's the point I want to highlight the most, because whatever you're doing now, whatever it may be, if you're half into anything, it's not enough to become profitable. We know what the statistics are and how many people actually make it. The only ones that do are those that are 100% serious, those that are doing everything they can do. So I had to get back into this state, not because I didn't know the lessons already or because I didn't know what to do, because I needed to be in that state just to maintain it. And if I wasn't going to be able to maintain anything I built, then there was no point in me doing it anyways. So I wasn't in the game to just be profitable for 1 year and then just leave forever. You have to maintain that. Now, here is probably one of the most important lessons from this whole thing. The reason for me maintaining it and the reason for me wanting to get back into that state, do those habits, is not just to learn. It's not just to make money again. That's not the reason for it. The reason is because doing all those habits, all the things to be in a position to make money, changes who I am as a person. You have to be a different person to be able to be successful in trading. And when you're in that state and when you are that person doing those things, you feel incredible. Life is truly beautiful and you have no dopamine addiction, no need for anything, no expectations. Whatever happens, that's how it happens. And you know, I got back into this stage slowly. I'm still getting back into it now. I don't live in central Bangkok anymore, as you can probably see by this type of environment. I moved out. I moved somewhere peaceful. I let the whole deposit go. Anything I was spending, spent a lot of money, moved all my stuff out, and came somewhere peaceful, somewhere that aligns with the nature of a trader, the nature of myself. And I stopped designing my life around trading. You know, I need to do all this stuff. I need to go to sleep late, 12 p.m., 1 a.m., so I can wake up, so I can trade more of New York session. I was compromising my values for trading. It was never going to work that way. So meditating every day, back with the 5, 6 a.m. wake-ups, in nature, peaceful walks, focusing on the goals. That's the state I'm back in now, and that's what allows me to become successful again. So instead of just doing that, being on the same level, being out here is different. No, I'm not going to be on the same level that I was on before, doing the same stuff that I was before. I mean, look where I am. I'm going to be on a higher level than I was before. And I'm currently making my way back to that place. Now, it's very important as a trader to be able to accept the outcome of anything that happens. Think in a probabilistic mindset in terms of your trading. And so it's very important that you have no dopamine addictions whatsoever. And you're just a spiritual person, a high frequency individual, because without that, you're going to always feel some type of way after a certain amount of losses. Maybe you can handle 1 loss, 2 losses. You know, maybe the third one exactly stops you out by a pip and then she instantly wins. Eventually, you're not going to be able to handle it. You're going to feel some type of way, all because you're not in the correct state to become profitable. So that highlights the importance of everything. I've just come to this bridge right here, and it crosses between these 2 lakes. So I may go back around. Let's see. We'll just cross the bridge. Wooden bridge in the middle of Thailand. Would you trust it? I'd trust this wood any day of the week. This is what bridges are meant to be made out of. Look at this. But yeah, anyways. Those are some of the things. So not compromising your values to become profitable, staying true to who you are and things you do. Making trading fit in around your life, the things you want to do, the things you have to do, not your life fitting around trading. Don't compromise anything you're doing, because then you're giving more to trading. The more you want it, the more you put into it, the more effort you try and force into it, the less it always tends to work. We got a dog crossing the bridge as well. Okay. Yeah, look at that. We have a dog just crossing the bridge, as you do. So yeah, that was the main points I wanted to cover. Obviously, you can imagine how it's very easy to say in hindsight and to not want to let money change you, but when it actually happens, the psychology is very different. It happens over time as well. It's not like you just make money and instantly change. Of course, I didn't just instantly change. It happened over time. The things I cared about started to change. when I suddenly had the freedom to do anything, and it started to compound because I became lazy, to be honest. And it starts to compound over time, and you can eventually just become soft on the things that you do. You know, it's kind of not as important anymore. You have money coming in. It's not that important what you do because it's kind of going to stay around the same, and you just slowly start to slack off of things, slowly, and eventually it will catch up to you. And it wasn't even important how it caught up to me, anything apart from who it made me become, because I had now been in this amazing state, 100% discipline, where I'm doing everything, I feel great, I'm achieving great results, and then that all changes. And then I get into that state where suddenly I'm just kind of maintaining. And we all know the quote, if you're not growing, then you're dying. And so no matter where you get to as an entrepreneur, no matter where you end up or how you feel in that state, if you're not growing, then you're dying. And so you're going to start feeling negative, no matter how good you're doing, no matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter. So those are the important lessons that I had to learn. And you know, I'm very early on in my journey as an entrepreneur. I'm only 20 years old, so it's important to learn these things early, because the sooner I learn them, the more of an advantage I have. You know, the greater things I can achieve, and the better I can become. That's also the advantage we have with the internet, doing stuff like that. At this age now, especially when you have all this life energy, motivation, you know, you kind of have everything you could possibly, all the things that you could want to be an entrepreneur and get into it. So there we go. That's probably going to end off this video here. I'm not sure how long it's been, but I made it around the whole lake into the second part, and yeah, this is mostly where it's going to end. We're just at this kind of random square. Let me come over here, turn the camera around. Yeah, here we are. This is the secondary lake behind the main one. We just walked all the way around, and also we've done half of this one now. So there we go. If you watched the end of this video, comment the word lake. So I know you guys watched to the end. I'll see if you like this type of video, this style of content. Let me know if you want to see more of these, just kind of raw morning convos. I used to do these before, but yeah, I kind of stopped as I thought they'd be less important for the channel. But returning to kind of my old self, it only felt right to make that style of video again. And I know it's very helpful for people in terms of just hearing the reality that people actually go through, rather than just, you know, only trading, only those type of things. So yeah, comment the word lake if you want me to do more of these type of videos. And yeah, I'll see everyone who watched to the end by doing that. But that's going to be everything for today's video, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. See you all in the next one.